Marianne Bachmeier's story begins in the ruins of post-war Germany, a country still reeling from the devastation of World War II. Born on June 3, 1950, in the small town of Sarstedt, Lower Saxony, she entered a world where brutality was not just a memory of war but a daily reality in her own home. Her father, a former Waffen-SS soldier, was a man hardened by combat and haunted by the horrors he had witnessed, and perhaps inflicted. He carried his wartime rage into the household, ruling over his family with an iron fist. Alcohol fueled his temper, and young Marianne grew up in an atmosphere of fear, never knowing when the next explosion of violence would come. When her parents' marriage finally collapsed, Marianne might have hoped for relief. Instead, her mother remarried, this time to a man who was, if anything, even more controlling. The abuse continued, only now under the roof of a man who saw children as burdens to be disciplined rather than nurtured. By her teenage years, Marianne was labeled a problem child, not because she was inherently rebellious, but because she had been failed by every adult who was supposed to protect her. At 16, with nowhere else to go, she was thrown out of her home, left to survive on the streets. Alone and desperate, Marianne soon found herself pregnant at just 16 years old. With no family support, no money, and no stability, she made the heartbreaking decision to give her first child up for adoption. It was a choice no teenager should ever have to make, but for Marianne, it was only the beginning of her suffering. 2 years later, she was raped. The assault left her pregnant again, and once more, she was forced to relinquish her baby. The trauma of these experiences would shape her forever, leaving her with a deep-seated fear of powerlessness, a rage against those who preyed on the vulnerable, and a fierce determination to protect whatever family she had left. By the time she was 22, Marianne had given birth to her third child, a daughter named Anna, born in 1972. This time, she refused to let go. Marianne was determined to keep Anna, but life as a single mother in 1970s Germany was far from easy. She worked nights in a bar, scraping together whatever money she could to provide for her daughter. But with no one to rely on for childcare, she often had no choice but to bring Anna with her, leaving the little girl to wait for hours in the dimly lit backroom of the bar, surrounded by the sounds of clinking glasses and drunken laughter. Anna was a bright, spirited child, full of energy and curiosity. But the instability of her upbringing meant she was often left to her own devices, wandering the neighborhood unsupervised. It was a dangerous freedom, one that would ultimately lead to tragedy. Klaus Grabowski was not a stranger. He lived just a few blocks away from Marianne and Anna in the city of Lübeck, a quiet, unassuming man who kept to himself. But beneath that ordinary exterior lurked a monster. Grabowski was a convicted child molester. He had already served time for sexually assaulting 2 young girls. The German legal system had chemically castrated him, a supposed safeguard to prevent further crimes. But in a shocking failure of justice, he had later been given hormone treatments that restored his sex drive. Anna had been to his apartment before. Like many children, she was drawn to his promises of playing with his cats. Grabowski knew how to manipulate, how to lure. He was patient. He waited for the right moment. The day everything changed. On May 5, 1980, Anna skipped school after an argument with her mother. It was a small act of rebellion, one that countless children make. But on that day, in that neighborhood, it was a fatal mistake. Grabowski saw his chance. He invited Anna inside. He gave her chocolate, a simple bribe, the oldest trick in the book. Then he locked the door. What happened next was every parent's worst nightmare. For hours, he tortured her. Then, when he was done, he strangled her with his fiancée's pantyhose. When police found Anna's tiny body discarded in a cardboard box near a canal, Grabowski's excuse was grotesque. She tried to blackmail me. Marianne Bachmeier did not collapse. She did not scream or wail. Instead, something inside her hardened. She had spent her entire life being failed, by her abusive father, by a system that cast her out as a teenager, by a society that left her struggling as a single mother. Now, the one person she had fought to protect had been taken from her in the most horrific way imaginable. And the man who did it was still alive. She made a decision. Bachmeier bought a Beretta 70 pistol, legally. She practiced shooting in a friend's basement, over and over, until she could fire without hesitation. She chose hollow-point bullets, designed to tear through flesh, to ensure there would be no second chances. She waited. March 6, 1981. The air in Lübeck District Court's room 157 was thick with tension. Marianne Bachmeier, dressed in a beige trench coat, sat silently in the public gallery, her hands clutching a black leather purse. Inside, beneath a folded newspaper, was the loaded Beretta. Klaus Grabowski, the man who had stolen her child's life, fidgeted in the defendant's chair just 15 feet away. The judge shuffled papers. The lawyers murmured. No one noticed the woman in the back. No one saw her stand. No one expected what came next. In one fluid motion, Bachmeier pulled the pistol from her purse, extended her arm, and fired. The first bullet struck Grabowski between the shoulder blades. As he lurched forward, 5 more rounds tore into his back. The 7th shot shattered a courtroom window. Screams erupted. Grabowski collapsed, blood spreading beneath him. Bachmeier did not run. She lowered the gun, looked at his lifeless body, and whispered. "That's for Anna." Germany was torn. Some hailed Bachmeier as a hero, a mother who had done what the justice system failed to do. To them, she was a symbol of righteous fury, a woman pushed beyond endurance who had delivered the punishment Grabowski deserved. Others condemned her as a murderer. They argued that vigilante justice had no place in a civilized society, that no one, no matter how grief-stricken, had the right to take the law into their own hands. Bachmeier was arrested on the spot. At her trial, she showed no remorse. "I would do it again," she said coldly. She was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 6 years in prison. She served only 3 before being released on good behavior. Bachmeier never recovered from Anna's death. She lived the rest of her life in the shadow of that loss, haunted by the memories of her daughter. In 1995, she gave a rare TV interview. When asked if she regretted killing Grabowski, her answer was firm. "No. I planned it. I wanted to silence his lies about Anna." A year later, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She died in 1996 at the age of 46 and was buried beside her daughter. Unanswered questions. Was this justice or vengeance? Bachmeier's bullets delivered what the courts could not, but does one crime justify another? Why was Grabowski free? A known predator, chemically castrated but later given hormones, how did the system fail so catastrophically? Where were the safeguards? Anna had visited Grabowski's apartment before. Why wasn't a convicted pedophile monitored more closely? Did the media exploit tragedy? Bachmeier sold her story to Stern magazine for 100,000 DM. Was her pain turned into profit? Could this happen today? With stricter laws and surveillance, would Anna have been saved? Or do monsters still slip through the cracks? In her last interview, Bachmeier said, "Unless you've held your murdered child's dress to your face and breathed in their fading scent, you don't know what you'd do." Her story forces us to ask, what would you do in her place? Was she a hero? A criminal? Or something in between? The debate continues. The pain remains. And the question lingers, did Germany learn from this tragedy, or could it happen again? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, or just stare at the screen until the algorithm takes pity. Either way, see you next time.